Hey Rovers, we have an exciting episode here about how to use storyboards. What are they and how do you use them to increase your productivity? But first, I just want to say thank you to everybody who reached out to me for my birthday to offer me birthday wishes. Also for the contributions, birthday contributions for the camera. And of course, we closed out the Benefactors bulkhead. I think by the time I took down the link, we actually had 101 subscribers. I said I wanted to stop it at 100, but we were oversubscribed. Thank you, everybody, for all that support. The Wave Rover 650, a design based on my single-handed ocean voyages. She's small, light, but easy to build, and strong enough to cross any ocean. My name's Alan Mulholland, and this is the Wave Rover story. Storyboards. Well, craftsmen have been using storyboards for centuries. They increase accuracy, they increase production, and it allows the craftsman to test the design before actually committing to cutting any expensive piece of wood. Now, I have the storyboard, and I'll be showing you how I use that storyboard to create the hatch housing that you see behind me and to test out that design before actually cutting any of my expensive marine plywood. A lot to do, time to crack on. So this is the storyboard. And a storyboard is so important, and it's one of those things that has been forgotten in the sands of time. As much as I recommend to the apprenticeship board that we need to be teaching this stuff still, they don't seem to have a need for it. But this is how you are able to build any complex item. And that's what our hatch housing really was. You know, we have to make a hatch housing that fits into the sloped line of the bulkhead. So this is the after bulkhead of Wave Rover. I even drew in a little port light right there, which I won't be putting in after all, but it's good to see what scale it would look like. And then along here you can see this is the top of the hatch housing, and then we've got the combing and the hatch itself with its lid and lip, and I even left a space between the top of the combing and the hatch itself to put a gasket material in there. The more detail you put into a storyboard, the more accurate your building is going to be. Now, this is called an elevation. An elevation means that we're looking at a vertical side of a picture. Now, in a moment, I'll take you to the other side of the board, and we'll be looking at what's called a plan view. A plan view is like a bird's eye view of what's happening. So in this case, I have drawn this. I'm happy with it. The scale looks good. The scale, of course, is 1:1. You know, if this is 10 inches on the drawing, it's 10 inches in reality. And so we have, from this drawing, I was able to develop these shapes and get my measurements for the wood. And then, and now we'll just take a look at the plan view right beside it. Okay, so I just want to prove to you that this hatch housing, it wasn't made first. The drawing was made first, and then we made this. But we're just going to check the measurements and then compare it to our storyboard. So the width of the housing is, look at that, it's 33 inches on the button, and the width of the combing from outside to outside is, well, pretty much, what is that, 21 7/8. It's hard to get it because of the roundness. Yeah, about 21 7/8. Okay, so we'll go take a look at our storyboard now and just see how accurate this was compared to our concept drawing. Okay, so we just got the measurements off the hatch itself on the boat. And like I said, I drew this first and then I built to this. So the hatch itself is 33 inches wide, and this, my plan drawing here, it's a half drawing. So there's the center line. So from the center to the outside edge should be half of 33 inches, and that works out to 16 and a half inches. So I'm just going to hold that right there, 10, and the edge comes to, let's see, it comes to 16 and 7/16. So we are exactly 1/16 wider on each side. But the point is that we're well within the tolerance of this drawing. The second thing that we measured was the hatch combing itself. So we measured that at 21 and 7/8, and half of 21 and 7/8 is 10 and 15/16. So again, from our center line, we'll just hold on to 10 right there. So it should be 20 and 15/16, and our combing comes to right there. It is 20 and it's almost 15/16. It's 30 seconds less. So we are well within tolerance again, using the storyboard. Now here's something interesting on the storyboard. So when I drew up this storyboard, I wanted to make sure that I could get this handle mounted between the outside, not the combing. This is the combing of the hatch housing right here. This set of lines right here, this is the actual edge of the hatch. So I wanted to make sure I had enough room between the edge of the hatch and the edge of the housing to fit this. When I initially drew it, you can see this line, it's erased. That was the edge of the housing, but it didn't give me enough space to mount this handle and still have room to open the hatch. So that's why you do these. You make a scale, and you can test out your theory or your concept in the almost real, full-size scale model. And then that's why I made it extra wide, so now I can get the handle. And what this represents will be a handle either side of the hatch. I'll mount it up high, and you'll open the hatch. You'll put your hand on this, you'll reach down, open the hatch, and then get into the boat and then let go of the handle. There'll be one on the port and one on the starboard side. So that's what a storyboard is all about. And this past summer, as many of you know, I built the house for us, and I built all the cabinets. And very few carpenters, believe it or not, build cabinets anymore. It was a thing when I was an apprentice. It was a dying thing at that point, but you still made the cabinets as part of what a finishing carpenter did. So when I made those cabinets this summer, what I did was I drew storyboards of the elevation that I wanted, the width, and all the information, bounced it off Mrs. Rover. What do you think for that height? Because we're not buying a manufactured one that comes in set heights. We can make whatever custom size we want, and it's the same with the hatch. You can make custom anything you want. You just need a good storyboard to work from. Now, we've talked enough theory. Let's show how I use this to actually build the hatch housing. Now, before I go about cutting this, I just want to score along my line to prevent tear out with the saw, because I'll be going across the grain here. Just want to line it up just on your line. Okay, that's all you need to do. Now, just a little bit of warning here. Before you start making a cut like this, make sure you check the depth of your saw to make sure you're not going to cut something valuable underneath. Okay, good. Okay, so this is the side of the hatch. I've got two of them now, and I've just taken these to measurements directly off the plan. Can you bring it in and take a look here? Okay, so it fits right where we need it to be. It's on the edge of what will be the bulkhead. lines up with the deck, and it lines up at the front. I've got the combings marked here for the hatch, and I've already checked the clearances to make sure it won't hit the boom. And then this piece right here, this massive piece, which goes like this. It sits right on top of this. And the hole, as you can imagine, in the center here, this is where you'll be entering the craft. And there'll be a combing that'll stick up just like we see in the drawing here. Okay, so from the drawing, then I can just lay this over top, just like that. And then when we look through, we see the combing, and actually I know it should be a 1/4 inch. The combing is going to sit over the edge of this by a 1/4 inch, and it's the same all the way around. So now we just want to, how did I end up with it being this wide? You might want to know. Well, come on over to our side drawing here. And so I've got a center line right here, and I've got the edge right here, and we'll measure that. I'll just start on the 10 for accuracy. It goes over to essentially 26.5 minus 10 is 16.5, multiplied by 2, and that gives us 33. So we'll measure this, and lo and behold, it's 33 inches wide. So you might say, wow, Alan, that is really wide. Why did you make it so wide? Because this thing right here, which is on our plan, sits like that. And that would translate to something that looks like this on the hatch. So the hatch will have a handle right here that I'll be able to hang on to this, open the hatch, steady myself with this, hop inside the boat. So I'll have one of these on each side. The exact position of this, I'm not 100% sure on where I'll have it, but that'll become clear once I get the whole hatch built. That's part of the reason that I built the top portion of the hatch out of 2 layers of plywood. There were 2 reasons for that. One is because I need that doubling effect for the handle. I also feel like I need that doubling effect for the combing because it's such a large opening. So that's why it's 2 layers, and they're overlapped so that there's a joint here, but on the underside the joint is running opposite. So it's really quite strong. The second reason I made it out of 2 layers is because if I used a full piece of ply, 2 full pieces of ply, it's so wasteful to cut that big section out. So it was just more efficient to do it this way. And I'm really feeling this is strong because I want to be able to stand on this too. And I want this to be able to take a massive wave coming down and not, cause any damage to the boat. Anyway, I've got all the bits I need at this point. So the next step is to start gluing the sides onto the top of the hatch. Time to crack on. Well, this is the hatch, well, loosely glued up. It's not fully glued up. I did a fillet on the front edge, and that's largely finished other than it'll get some fiberglass over it. The rest, the sides, all I've done is just tacked them in place, much the way a welder would just tack some steel into place. And the reason I use the epoxy for that, because initially I tried hot glue, but it just It just wasn't structurally sound enough to let the hot glue hold it. So everything is squared up and it's held in place, and after this glue hardens, then I'll be able to get in, wet out these edges, fill it, and probably fiberglass all in one go. So that is a really nice job. It just needs a light sanding and then we can paint it. But more importantly, these sides, so that I'm flexing right now, they're nice and solid enough now that we can go do a proper dry fit and make sure the hatch housing really fits well to the deck, and we can proceed then with the next step. Well, that's it. The hatch housing is more or less ready now for glassing. You can see I've put a nice 1/2 inch round over in. As I've said now a few times through the video series, if you're going to have any round over at all on exterior pieces, try to do a 1/2 inch round over, because the 1/2 inch will paint will adhere to it so much better, and it's so much easier to bend fiberglass around a 1/2 inch rather than a smaller radius. Anyway, looking very, very good. I'm very happy with this hatch design. Well, Rovers, we have to end the video here just because it's getting a little too long. Now, in 2 weeks' time, that's right, 2 weeks' time, I'll be finishing the hatch housing. I'll be fiberglassing it. I'll be installing it. I'll be attaching it, correctly, strongly to the Wave Rover. I'll be putting the combing on. I'll be doing all of that. So that's in 2 weeks' time. But next week, I have a special guest arriving here. Stephen Marinelli is coming up for a long weekend, and we're going to get a ton of work done. I'm going to give you an insight to what it's like to be a house guest at Rover's Rest. As always, Rovers, forge your own adventure. I'd like to take a moment to honor the Wave Rover benefactors. So what is a benefactor? Well, these folks have made a contribution of $100 US or more to the project, and their names will be affixed to a bulkhead inside Wave Rover and will be traveling with me on our circumnavigation. Now, these donations truly are much appreciated. Well, the Wave Rover patrons, with their pledges of support, really do make the creation of these videos possible. Now, if you'd like to know more about Wave Rover's patron page and Benefactors Bulkhead, I have links to both those pages in the video description. Now, another way to help Wave Rover, and it doesn't cost you a dime, is by sharing our content on your social media. So now, as always, Rovers, thanks for watching. Give us one more. Brilliant.